Tonight, massive escalation. Donald Trump's accelerated threats against the Canadian auto sector.
A 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States.
The response from party leaders on the campaign trail.
It's entirely unjustified.
Is a full frontal attack on auto workers.
We must retaliate and target goods and services that we don't need.
And what it means for our critical Canadian industry. Why the Liberal leader was grilled about billions in an offshore tax haven. What led police to identifying a serial killer's Indigenous victim. Plus, a war plan exposed after the White House denied any details were shared.
I think it's all a witch hunt.
What the leaked texts reveal. And backlash against the Bay.
Well, I don't think that's right or fair.
The millions managers and executives could take home in bonuses, while staff are stiffed over severance.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. Another stark reminder tonight of the Trump effect on the Canadian election. Party leaders this evening forced to quickly pivot after the U.S. president vowed to push ahead with a 25% tariff on auto imports next week, marking a massive blow to an industry that, after oil, is Canada's second largest source of exports to the U.S. The news drove shares of the big three automakers down in after-hours trading. And Mark Carney, in his capacity as Prime Minister, now returning to Ottawa to chair a special cabinet committee on U.S. relations tomorrow. CTV's Adrian Gobriel starts us off.
Crushing news for assembly lines that stretch across the Canadian auto industry.
What we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States.
With the stroke of a Sharpie in the Oval Office, the executive tariff order that Trump is calling permanent was signed. While auto parts are receiving a 1-month exemption, it doesn't appear that vehicles built under the terms of the Canada-US-Mexico agreement will be spared.
And this is a direct attack.
Previously, Prime Minister Mark Carney has vowed not to sit down with Donald Trump until Canada's sovereignty is respected by the U.S. president. Following this afternoon's announcement, Carney appears to have changed his stance.
It would be appropriate that the president and I speak, given the action that he's taken. I'm sure that it will happen soon.
Trump's economic roller coaster catching up with each of the federal leaders on the campaign trail.
We know that Trump is an arsonist. He's literally burning down his own country's jobs and economy and ours as well.
Now is the time to take back control and relaunch our economy so that we can confront the president's unjustified threats and tariffs.
The president's on-again, off-again trade war has caused months of turbulence across the global auto industry, with many in Canada now bracing for mass layoffs.
This will have a direct impact on Canadian jobs, which means we must do everything possible as a country to defend Canadian workers and to defend their jobs.
It's great.
Just hours before Trump's announcement today, standing near the base of the Ambassador Bridge, where roughly $50 million worth of auto parts travel between the U.S. and Canada each day, Carney outlined his plan to fortify the country's vehicle manufacturing industry by creating a $2 billion fund to build out a Canadian supply chain, develop an all-in Canada network for component parts, maximize Canada's steel, aluminum, and critical minerals, while leveraging government funding to prioritize and procure Canadian-built vehicles. Back in Washington, Trump is calling this latest move very modest. Canadian federal party leaders across the political spectrum couldn't disagree more. The auto tariffs come into effect next Thursday. Donald Trump expects them to generate $100 billion in revenue, though many warn it could come at the expense of the American public, who will be paying an average of $12,000 more per vehicle, driving up inflation even further in the United States. Omar.
All right, Adrian, thank you. Carney faced repeated questions today about his previous job as chair of Brookfield Asset Management, where he co-chaired 2 investment funds worth billions that were registered offshore, giving investors tax advantages. CTV's Judy Trin on the reaction.
Look, I'm beholden to absolutely no one except to the Canadian people.
The job Mark Carney wants, to be Prime Minister, is being impacted by the job he had as chair of Brookfield Asset Management, where he managed 2 investor environmental funds valued at $25 billion. Portfolios that he registered in the tax haven of Bermuda.
He chose to register in another country to avoid paying those taxes. That's less money for healthcare, less money for seniors.
This 2023 report shows that a union from BC wanted Brookfield to issue a tax transparency report. The union was concerned Brookfield was at the top of a list of companies that avoided paying the largest amount of income tax. But Brookfield management recommended shareholders vote against the motion because it could force disclosure of sensitive operational information that could put the company at a competitive disadvantage.
There's nothing illegal about this, but I think there's a significant public sentiment that this kind of thing is wrong and should not be allowed.
All right. At this rally in Kitchener, attended by almost 2,000 people, Carney is banking on his financial experience being welcomed. He says he'll use his expertise to close loopholes that allow companies to evade taxes.
I understand how the world works and the structure works, and have the ability to put in place all of the necessary rules to ensure that the appropriate taxes are paid here in Canada.
He says he knows how the world works. He knows how to make it work for him and against you.
The plan was for Carney to leave here and travel to Quebec for the next leg of his campaign. But now he'll be returning to Ottawa after Donald Trump imposed 25% tariffs on foreign autos. Omar.
All right, Judy, thank you. And for more, CTV's chief political correspondent Vassy Kapelos joins us now. Vassy, what impact do these revelations have on Mark Carney's campaign going forward?
Well, it's sort of interesting, Omar, like yesterday when we were talking about security clearance and Pierre Poilievre. Anytime there's questions about leadership in a race as close as this one, there is a potential impact on the campaign. This is not what the campaigns want to be talking about. They say it's a distraction, but it does have a potential impact going forward.
Now, we are also learning about the man who used to represent the riding Mark Carney is currently running in. Our viewers may remember that Chandra Arya's status was revoked as the Liberal Party candidate for Nepean, and before that, he was disqualified from the Liberal leadership race. What can you tell us about why, and what is Arya's response?
So I talked to two people with national security clearance who are close to this story. They said the decision was the parties and the parties alone. Based on this trip Mr. Arya took to India, met with Prime Minister Modi at a time when tensions between our two countries were at a fever pitch. He did not apprise the government of it. He didn't need to seek permission, but the party officials I spoke to said they wanted to be apprised of it. And so it was a bit suspect. And that is ultimately why they blocked his nomination and his desire to lead the party, essentially. He is saying, pushing back on all of that, essentially saying at no point did the former Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, or anybody else raise the issue as a problem, and he's never had to seek permission to make a foreign trip before. Omar?
All right, Vassy, thanks for this tonight. The Conservatives made their pitch to seniors on the campaign trail today. CTV's Abigail Beeman with the pledges to save money.
These seniors want to keep working.
I like work. I'm healthy.
But are worried about finances.
Tax is very high.
They were happy to hear Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's ideas that would provide incentives to keep seniors who want to stay on the job.
Seniors deserve security.
Poilievre says working seniors will be able to earn an additional $10,000 tax-free. He'll extend the deadline to close your RRSP from 71 to age 73.
We've been advocating for this for almost 2 decades. This is the first time we've seen it introduced in a federal election. So this is a really positive move for seniors.
And he commits to maintaining the age people can access government benefits, 65.
Now he's flip-flopping on it, and we know that that is a lie. He is going to attack seniors the way he did before.
New Democrats are calling out Poilievre for his past support of a higher retirement age.
65 to 67, a 2-year increase over a gradual period.
Poilievre wouldn't directly address the reversal, but insisted
the retirement age will remain 65.
While spending Wednesday in and around Quebec City, Conservatives are also targeting voters more broadly, releasing a 2-page Quebec-specific platform. The party has struggled to make inroads in the province in the last few elections, currently holding 9 seats with 78 up for grabs. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Quebec City.
And the NDP announced plans to provide middle-class Canadians with some financial relief.
Let's target families that actually need relief, middle-class families, lower-income families.
Jagmeet Singh announced what he calls a middle-class tax cut. He also pledged to eliminate the GST on essentials such as home energy, cell phone and internet payments, and kids' clothing. The party estimates the measure will cost about $10.4 billion, but will be covered by the CRA enforcing corporate tax compliance.
These income tax cuts that we are proposing today that will leave $3,700 on average in your pockets will be funded through tax increases for large corporations.
And the Greens are pledging to raise the tax-free income threshold to $40,000. The basic personal amount is currently just under $16,000. For the Bloc Québécois, it has been a struggle to gain traction in a campaign dominated by the trade war. CTV's Montreal bureau chief Geneviève Beauchemin on how the political landscape in the province has shifted.
Stamped on the Bloc Québécois bus is the slogan, Je choisis le Québec, I choose Quebec. Still themes of the province's identity, nationalism, sovereignty, and language, at the heart of federal elections here for generations, are taking a back seat on the trail now.
For the time being, what we have at hand in front of us is tackling the intimidation being put into place by the American president.
In the fall, the Bloc seems set to make big gains in its share of Quebec's 78 seats in the House of Commons. But in the face of Trump's tariffs and annexation threats, the Bloc's poll numbers have dropped as Quebecers' Canadian pride has risen.
Oh, it's a tremendous change. We went from a nationalist sentiment towards Quebec that shifted to a nationalist sentiment towards the federal government.
An Angus Reid survey last month found the number of Quebecers stating a deep emotional attachment to Canada grew from 30% in December to 45% in February. Now, Quebec did start far back in Canadian pride, but this is the highest jump of any province. Analysts say part of the sentiment is based on dollars and cents and concerns about how a more independent Quebec with sovereignist leaders in charge would fare.
What people are saying is that we must work with allies, and who are the closer ally for Quebecers? Well, they are Canadian.
The Bloc leader has been making the case that other federal leaders don't know enough about the sensibilities of Quebec.
Natalie Pronovost, who uttered the tragedy of the shootings at Concordia.
He pointed to a gaffe by the Liberal leader. Mark Carney had to apologize after referring to a survivor of the Polytechnique massacre, one of his own candidates, as a survivor of a shooting at Concordia University.
My only purpose is to be the best possible voice for Quebecers.
But analysts say the challenge for the Bloc may be to sell a Quebec First party in what may turn out to be a Canada First moment. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith is defending her plans to travel to Florida tomorrow to appear with controversial Conservative podcast host Ben Shapiro, saying she hopes to influence Americans about the damage tariffs are inflicting.
He has a very wide circle of influence. The people who listen to his podcast are close to the U.S. president. If we can convince them, we may be able to convince the administration.
Alberta's NDP calls it a waste of taxpayer dollars to appear at a fundraiser with someone who has called Canada the Puerto Rico of the North and supports annexation. In other news, investigators have identified a previously unknown victim of a Winnipeg serial killer. For years, she was known as Buffalo Woman. Now, she has a name. CTV's Denton Unger on the new push to find her remains.
3 years after she went missing in downtown Winnipeg, police have now confirmed Ashley Shingoose was one of the 4 women murdered by convicted serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky.
Your daughter deserved to be named, and we offer our condolences.
Skibitsky was convicted last year in the deaths of Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and an unidentified victim given the name Mashkure Bezeki Ekwi, or Buffalo Woman. Her true identity was unknown until now.
We were able to confirm the identity of Buffalo Woman as that of Ashley Christine Shingoose.
Police say investigators interviewed Skibitsky behind bars, identifying a new piece of clothing from his apartment that belonged to Buffalo Woman. It was sent for DNA testing, which confirmed the identity. Shingoose has been missing since she was last seen in downtown Winnipeg in March 2022, and now police believe her remains are somewhere in the Brady landfill.
I promise you that we are going to search the Brady landfill
for your daughter.
That commitment to search was echoed by the Winnipeg Police and the City of Winnipeg.
We will make every effort to bring her home.
This news has left Ashley's home community of St. Teresa Point heartbroken.
But at the same time, we welcome the news that there is a light at the end.
Chief Raymond Flett shared this statement from Ashley's mother.
I need to bring her home. I need that closure. It's been too long. Enough. Search the landfill as soon as possible.
Danton Unger, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Coming up, what the leaked messages reveal.
Nobody's texting war plans.
Trump's top defense official digs in as new details are released. A new bombshell in the group chat scandal in Washington. The journalist accidentally added to the conversation about Houthi rebel attack plans has published the chat for the world to see. And as CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbin has the details. Joy, what do those messages reveal?
Omar, the White House is shifting blame, trashing journalist Jeffrey Goldberg, calling him a Trump hater after he was accidentally added to a Signal chat where military strikes against Houthi rebels were discussed. The most sensitive information coming from Trump's defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, who shared stunning details on targets and timing of strikes, even what fighter jets and drones would attack. The president tonight downplaying it all and standing by his team.
Well, I don't know about downplaying. The press upplays it. I think it's all a witch hunt. Hegseth is doing a great job. He had nothing to do with this.
Trump's top intelligence officials were grilled for a second straight day, and the White House is pushing back, even as some Republicans now say the security revelations were a mistake, raising big questions about Hegseth, the former Fox News host, and his ability to lead the U.S. military. Here's what he had to say.
No classified information. You know who sees war plans? I see them every single day.
Democrats are demanding someone be fired, at the very least an independent investigation into what's become a national scandal. Omar?
Joy Malbin in Washington. A terrifying moment in the skies over France caught on camera as two stunt jets collided midair. This video taken yesterday shows 6 aircraft performing a maneuver before 2 of the planes collided. One of the jets seems to gain control, but the other crashes to the ground, creating a massive fireball. The French Ministry of Defense says the 2 pilots sent a third person ejected and no one was hurt. A Vancouver woman has pleaded guilty to careless driving charges after several young Canadian field hockey players were injured in a head-on crash in New Zealand. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson has more on what led to the collision.
On this stretch of New Zealand highway, a field hockey trip for a group of teenaged Canadian girls took a traumatic turn. On Sunday morning, police say the driver of the van the girls were in attempted to pass another vehicle and hit an SUV head-on.
If people were not wearing their seatbelts, then I believe we'd be dealing with a fatality from this crash.
11 of the teens were hurt, 4 seriously, including 2 with spinal injuries. The players are traveling with a Vancouver-based field hockey academy run by Olympian Rob Short. In a statement, the academy says, "Our top priority is the health of the members of our team who were injured in the bus accident this week. We are doing everything possible to provide the support needed to the girls and the families involved." The academy's tour manager, Kelly Vanry, was the driver, and today she took responsibility, pleading guilty to 5 careless driving charges.
She was very remorseful. She has written letters of remorse to each of the victims involved in the crash.
Court documents show Vanry believed she had been clear and safe to pass. She's been ordered to pay a fine of $1,000 to each of the 4 victims and $1,500 to the other driver. Police say the most seriously injured girls, aged 15 and 17, face months of recovery. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Still ahead. Why Hudson's Bay executives are getting bonuses during mass layoffs. The Hudson's Bay Company is facing criticism for its plan to reward company brass, while more than 9,000 employees won't get severance.
Well, I don't think that's right or fair.
Court documents reveal the company will pay up to $3 million in retention bonuses to some managers and executive. The Bay says it needs to retain their services during the liquidation process. And Prince Harry has resigned as a patron of the African charity he founded in the memory of his late mother nearly 20 years ago over a disagreement between the trustees and the chairperson. The charity's co-founder also quit. Still ahead, the next stop in our cross-country campaign snapshot. What's front and center for a Cape Breton community in the run-up to voting day? As the countdown to Election Day continues, we are focusing on the concerns of voters across the country. Tonight, we bring you to the scenic coastal city of Sydney, Nova Scotia. Here's CTV's Paul Hollingsworth.
In picturesque Sydney, there's a clear appreciation for music, culture, and sports. People take pride in their way of life, which includes a steady tourism industry, thriving seafood and manufacturing sectors, and a strong tradition of post-secondary education. There's also always time for a fun night out. This is Open Mic Night, an opportunity for the community to gather, belt out tunes, and chat about what matters most to them this election campaign.
Whether it's housing or just at the grocery store, groceries, that type of thing.
Pub owner Arden Mofford says tackling inflation must be the top priority post-election.
Everything costs so much more, and there has to be a threshold where our consumers are going to stop purchasing the products.
Products like his famed seafood dishes that he worries tariffs will significantly impact. For this nurse, there is one issue that takes priority over all others.
Canadians don't have access to the health care that they deserve.
Another hot topic, the Canada-US trade war and a major threat that is lurking south of the border.
Trump?
Oh my gosh, it's managing Trump.
Donald Trump has sparked a reaction across the country. Patriotism is surging. Voters in Sydney say the winner of the next election must find a way to build even more unity across Canada.
I think it's great now that we've become more patriotic, and we should worship our country.
This voter served 30 years in the military and says the trade war and threat of Canada being a 51st state has reminded him that loyalty and service to his country are the things that still matter the most.
We have to step up again.
He says if the winner of the next federal election helps navigate Canadians through these troubled times, it would be music to his ears. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Sydney, Nova Scotia.
Beautiful part of the country. And tomorrow we will take you to Peguis First Nation, Manitoba's largest First Nation. That is a snapshot of this Wednesday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night and see you tomorrow.